Hi everyone, I'm Olivia, the Southern Yankee Stitcher, and this is my floss tube number 49. Um, I haven't made a floss tube in 2 months. 2 months, y'all, which is much longer than I intended for it to be. But I had a lot of things happen, which I'll share with you later. I'll do my life update at the end of the video, but um, I've been wanting to do this video. I wanted to do it last week. I wanted to do it this past weekend. I had a little time, but I had this cough and this tickle in my throat that will not go away. So I'm doing it with the cough today, with the cough drop in my cheek, a cup of tea sitting right there. So hopefully I can get through this video, and I'm going to try and make it as quick as I can. I started out this morning. It was a bad Monday morning. I was getting ready for work. I have to walk my dogs in the morning. They're in a closed porch area because they keep escaping from the fence. That's a whole other saga. I won't even get into that story. But so I have them on leash and I'm walking them. And when I go out on my deck, if I go out down the steps on the right side of my deck, that means I'm just going to walk them with the leash and take them back in. Because that's what I do in the morning because I'm in a hurry. In the afternoons, I go off the left side of the deck, and then they get to go in the fenced area and play for a while. And apparently they wanted to go and play for a while, especially the one that's named Big. And Big just decided to plop himself on the top of the steps, and he wasn't going to come down and do his business or listen to me. So that delayed me for a little bit. He finally came down and did what he was supposed to do and got him back in. I'm trying to rush and get everything together, take everything I want to take. I want to take some stitching to work because I knew my coworker was going to be out sick and I would be sitting at the front desk and maybe I'd have time to stitch. So I got everything together, got in my car, realized I left my breakfast sitting on the counter. So I run back in the house to get my breakfast, and I end up being 10 minutes late for work, which my boss probably doesn't care. It might not be a big deal to them, but it's kind of a big deal to me. I don't like being late. So I'm sitting at the front desk since my friend's out sick and covering for her in the morning, and I see my phone's on silent, but I see these messages popping up. You have the little red ball with all the numbers in it. The one my daughter can't stand to be on there. And there were like 34 messages or something on there. So I finally clicked on it to see what it was, and it was my table 10 stitch group. Last year at StitchCon, we all sat together at table 10, and some of us had known each other before, and the rest of us just met. I knew two of the people going to StitchCon. The first year I went to StitchCon, I didn't really know anybody, but so last year was my second year, and I knew two of the ladies, and then there were four other ladies that sat at our table. I think we squeezed in an extra chair, maybe, because there were 7 of us, and we just got along great. And we live in different parts of the country. We have different kinds of occupations, different backgrounds, probably, and but we all really enjoyed our time together. In fact, so much so that we Zoom every other Sunday night, and we'll text each other in between there. So they were texting about some projects they were working on, and one of them texts says, "Olivia, you were Pam and Steph's silver floss tuber this week," and I said, "What?" I just couldn't believe it. I was so excited. It turned my terrible morning into a great morning. So I said, "Well, today I'm recording no matter what. I mean, if I'm a silver floss tuber, I need to step up my game a little bit." So I'm recording today, cough and all, and I don't have everything here in front of me. I want to show you some things are pictures on my phone. I'm just going to do my best I can today because otherwise I'd be delayed again for I don't know how long. So let me start with some finishes. First finish I have was Miss Fiona's Rose Garden, and that's by the Bay. And I showed part of my progress, I think, before. I had started it at my last video, And I finished it and I gave it to them. So I don't have it. One day I might just get it back to show you all, but it's framed and everything. But this is what it looks like. I made it a burst sampler for my granddaughter. Her middle name is Rose, so we wanted something with a rose in it. And I saw this little chart, and I just thought it was really cute. Now the bunny on the chart had some long stitches, almost like a collar or something going around, and I omitted that. I wasn't sure what the purpose of that was. Now, I'm sorry, these aren't great pictures, but it's the best I got. The grass and the dark pink on the roses are satin stitches. These are the first satin stitches that I have done since I was like a kid. I was doing embroidery, and I was a little kid doing embroidery. You like outline it with a regular cross stitch, and then you use a satin stitch, and I think it turned out pretty good. I hope you can see that. Again, I apologize for having to show you something on the phone. The grass, I think I did better than the roses, because the roses were the first thing I did, and they're supposed to be going different directions. I don't know, but it looked good when it was done. I was pretty pleased with it. And again, that's Miss Fiona's Rose Garden by the Bay Needleworks. Then my next finish. I hope my daughter can't hear me. One of my daughters is home. I've told you all some of this before, but I started to do 25 days of Christmas for my kids, the Christmas after my husband, their dad, passed away. Because I wanted them just to have a happy Christmas. I knew it was going to be a hard, first Christmas without him. So the first year was pretty good, and I was able to find some little, just little things. I mean, I got a bottle of nail polish for the girls one time, or, it could have just been candy, and it was just little things. There were a couple days where there were bigger things in it. And it was pretty easy the first year. Second year was harder. Last year was harder, because I had already given them a bunch of the stuff that you might think of. So it was pretty difficult. I just couldn't think of things. So they got a lot of snacks and some little gift cards. Each year, starting in let's see, Christmas of 2021. Pardon me. I said I wanted to give something handmade to all my family members. So the first Christmas, I did sewing boxes with cross stitch on top and decoupage inside for all the girls, my daughters and my daughter-in-law. I did a family crest cross stitched for my son, and I did a quilt for my husband. The next year, I did paperweights for all the kids and my daughter-in-law. And then last year, I did ornaments. I did the sleds with the perforated paper on them, and I did those for everybody, including my grandkids. Well, I decided this year I'm going to try and make more ornaments and do like a series for each person of ornaments. And that will take up some of the 25 days. It probably won't use as many, and we might have to go to 12 days of Christmas. I don't know what I'm going to do. But I did finish the first ornament that I'm going to use. I'm not sure if this is going to go to my son or my daughter-in-law. Their Christmas tree is done in blues. So they're just kind of starting out. And they don't do a lot of Santa. They do more, the Christian meaning of Christmas. The real meaning of Christmas. And so this is a chart. Let me show you the chart first. I saw this chart on another floss tube. It's made by Michelle McGraw, and she showed these ornaments that she did, and she said, I think they're out of print. I looked everywhere. I was texting friends. Does anybody have this in their stash? I need this. I need to stitch these for my kids. Well, then I watched another one of her videos, Michelle McGraw's videos, and she says where you could get them. So I went immediately on there to get them, and so I could stitch them. This is, I don't know, it's called Starry Starry Night. This is part 2, and you can see it's got the shepherds there, and then like the Holy Family of the Nativity, or I think they call him Emanuel, however you want to pronounce it. I don't know why I started with part 2. I just did. And I started with the shepherds, and this, I've finished the first one. I love it. This is not black, it's a very dark blue. I forget the color. 629, 926, something. 930, I think it's 939. Anyway, I love it. Now finishing it, I guess I'm going to try and just get a backer board, just do a flat finish that's kind of that shape. I might have to experiment with that a little bit. This is some, I don't know what, this is the same fabric I used on Lila Studios Quaker Welcome. And this is just a leftover piece I had. And I'm going to be able to squeeze, there's 4 ornaments in the series so far. That are just this color palette. She has some that are full color, and I don't really want to do the full color ones. I just like the silhouettes. Here's the other one. Not quite done with it. But I just loved them. Just love them. And so I'm going to keep working on those. And like I said, it's either going to go to my son or my daughter-in-law. I'm not sure which. Because I need to find another series, a 4th series, to do for the other one. If these are for my son, I need to find one for my daughter-in-law. Vice versa. Okay, then tomorrow I'm going to speak about cross stitch. I'm kind of nervous about it because I'm really not an expert on it. I'm in Daughters of the American Revolution, and part of what they do, they want to educate about history, preserve history. Well, I already said educate. Well, and show patriotism is kind of the 3 things that they do. But there's a committee within the chapter, nationwide and local, that's called the Heritage Committee, and they want to encourage people to continue with the arts. So, to teach others, to do it yourself, and arts and heritage crafts. So cross stitch is one. So I'm going to be speaking about cross stitch to my chapter. I'm going to kind of zone in on schoolgirl samplers because I think they're interesting. I have some antique ones. I have just a couple like marking samplers. But I'm also going to take some of my other stitching to try and encourage people to start stitching again, because a lot of these ladies, I'm 55, y'all, and I'm probably the youngest member in our chapter. We've had some new ones, but I think everyone's older than me. And probably because it's hard to go to meetings if you're not retired and that kind of thing, unless you find a chapter that has evening meetings, or if you have a boss that will work with you like mine will, so that I can work a little bit extra and take off once a month to go to a meeting. But I'm going to be, I'm going to be speaking tomorrow. And one thing my mom always told me if I was playing an event is to have some kind of game. She said everybody likes to play a game. Everybody likes to have fun. So you need to have some kind of game. So I'm going to have a little game. And I have some trivia about First Ladies and needlework that they did. And so I'm going to pass out all these facts to people, and they're going to call out their facts, and then their name goes in a hat. And at the end of the meeting, one person will be the door prize. And I stitched the door prize from this book. I purchased this book at StitchCon last year. And I I don't know that I would have bought it off the chart, but when you see those models, boy, it makes a difference when you see the models. And this is the one I chose to stitch right here. It's like the quilt on the quilt rack, and it's got the sewing tomato and scissors and thread below it. So this is a quick stitch. I did it in 2 days. You all could do it too. I finished it on a box, and show you. Here's the stitching. Now, the chart had a couple things on it. This yellow thing here, I first thought was a ribbon. Then as I read, talking about backstitch, they want you to put some little black lines on it, and I was like, what are they for? It's supposed to be a measuring tape, but I didn't like the black lines on it, so I just left it. Also, in the sewing tomato, you're supposed to do some backs, like a gray back stitch with a French knot, so it'd be pins in the pin cushion. They look terrible. They just look too big. So I didn't do them. This is just one of those unfinished boxes at Hobby Lobby, and so I painted it, and then I covered some fabric. This is thicker for like a pin cushion, and this is just a little bit of padding in there. So that'll be a door prize for one of the ladies tomorrow after I talk about cross stitch and schoolgirl samplers. Have another finish. Where is it? Oh, it's right here. Snake it would have bit me. I am doing some of the Polar Plunge series by Hands On Design. I'm sure you've all seen it. This is the one that was for to benefit the Special Olympics, this pattern. I think you had to get directly from Hands On Design. And I finished stitching it. It turned out pretty cute. My youngest daughter loves marine life, sharks, dolphins, anything like that. So these are the ornaments I'm making for her for Christmas for her. 12 or 25 or whatever days of Christmas I do for the kids. Let's see. Okay, so those are my finishes. But I do have a whip, several whips to show you. Here's this one. Oh, it's shoved in the bottom. Great. Now it's wrinkled up. The next one I'm doing in this series is the polar bear Peak. And he's so cute. These get done really fast. Like my start and stop date is pretty far. It's pretty spread out on this, and it's for Norwhal, but only because I didn't work on it a lot in between. I just had to do back stitching, and I had done everything but that and left it there for a month. This I just worked on yesterday afternoon. Got that done. Like I said, really fast, really quick stitch. Okay, I have one. I started, I've done stockings for all my children and grandchildren, me and my husband. And so from the new baby, Renee, who I just did the sampler for, the birth sampler, Miss Fiona's Rose Garden, this is the stocking that her parents picked out. Well, stupid me, I did this last time too, with their other daughter. I sent them options, including things I shouldn't have sent them. I should not have sent this to them. Dimensions Gold collection is beautiful. It is beautiful. I hate working on it. I hate it. I want it to be on white Ada because all the other stockings are on white Ada. I did those in the early 90s is when I started. I'm keeping with that look. I want them to look the same. Which way does this go? This is what I've gotten done so far. Y'all, the confetti is unreal. The confetti and the blending. I don't think I've ever done, I think I've done Dimensions kits, but maybe they were older. They didn't have all the blending that this one has. Oh my gosh, some of these stitches, now they're only half stitches, but it's 5 strands in your needle. And you only, like I said, you only have to do a half stitch, but boy, I might, keep this and finish it one day. That's not going to be this granddaughter stocking. I cannot finish it. I detest it. and the 8 is super, super stiff, which I can get around that. Like I said, I've stitched on Ada a lot before. I can get around it. But, oh, I forgot to show you something. Well, on my granddaughter's birth sampler, I found the chart. It's in this book I want to show you. Good grief, I'm losing my mind. On her birth sampler, on this, I put all her birth information below the grass. I kind of showed it to you, I think, in a picture here. Those letters and numbers I got out of this book, the Sampler Motif book by Brenda Keyes, and in the back it has a bunch of different alphabets. And I picked one that's just backstitched because otherwise it would be kind of overpowering. And I wanted that to be something that she could have for a long time in her room and like. Glad I found that. Okay. My last whip I'll share with you today is Chestnut Springs. For anybody that might be new and hasn't heard about it, this is my childhood home. It's a home that was in Maryland. I lived there from the time I was born until I was 22 years old, and had been married 6 months. So there are many, many memories in this home. My mother downsized years ago and moved to South Carolina, closer to me, and it was just such a grand house. It's big, and we had grand events there. We always had big holiday dinners there, and just a lot. And I loved our home. And my parents did a lot of work themselves on that home, so their blood, sweat, and tears were literally in that house. So if you can love a place, I love that place. But I saw something a couple years ago on Facebook, and it was a newspaper article from 1890, April 30th, 1890. I'm gonna read just part of this to you. Let me take a sip of. Now, keep in mind the community where I lived was called Shookstown. Our address is Frederick. It's Frederick County. Technically, we're Frederick, but the community is Shookstown. And this is from 1890. Our quiet village of Shookstown is small, but she gets there all the same, for she has the most splendid situation. Just on the west side of the Catoctin Mountain spreads her slopes and beautiful shades about for the weary workman to pause and rest beneath. On the east, our town looks forth to all the sublimity of the beautiful Frederick Valley, which is surely the grandest spot in the county. We are situated just 3 miles from the city on a splendid road, mostly pike, which affords the most excellent drive for those pleasure and health seekers of the city seem to take advantage of it, as their drives are numerous to our place. Just above us at the west end of, just above us, it's newsprint I'm reading, so it's kind of hard to read. Just above us at the west end of town are the famous Chestnut Springs, probably the finest water source in the community, which would be a fine location for a summer residence. Our town has undergone numerous changes this spring. The new buildings have gone up, and indeed a taste of splendor has struck our citizens, and they are now I don't know what that word is. Indefatigable. Indefaligable. Pam, you need to tell me what that means. Indefatigable in their exertions to improve. We have some very extensive planters here, and it goes on to list some of the people who planted. Well, in 1890, they were trying to get people to come to that area, Chestnut Springs. My childhood home, was called Chestnut Springs because this is a spring house right here, and I'll have water coming out through here. The spring was, what's the word you use? Words are hard. Prolific, maybe? Yeah, it never dried up. The spring never dried up. So, it was a community. I grew up, my parents would tell me that it was a community spring. And my dad said even back to like Native Americans, it was a spring that they used because it was so, such a good spring. And we found a few arrowheads and things around on our property. My parents built the house. The house is just about the same age as me. So it wasn't an old home, but they used a lot of the way people reuse architectural salvage now. My parents did it in the 70s before it was the thing to do, just because they were saving money, probably. But anyway, I never really knew that the springs were so famous, the famous Chestnut Springs. I will tell you, it's kind of strange that somebody would say, oh, this water is really good. But I remember people, because we always had water with our meal. We never had tea or soda or anything like that. We had water with our meal. And people would comment, outside the family, this is really good water. Because the water would come out of this spring ice cold. Like, we had a spring house, had a reservoir in it. And that's where the water was pumped into the house. We used it for our baths. We used it for cooking and drinking, for everything. That was our water source. We didn't have a well or anything else. And it was ice cold. There was an overflow from the reservoir, and that went into an old iron tub. So that was another reservoir where we could scoop out buckets of water if we needed to, like, take water to the chickens or the garden or whatever we were doing with water. And in the summertime, well, my mom always, like, once in the spring, she would clean that tub so it was white and sparkly. But in the summertime, we would put our watermelons in that tub, in that ice cold water, and they were super cold to eat. It was so good, so good. The only thing is, you did not want to Like when you played in the sprinkler, boy, it was cold. It was really cold. And it was crystal clear. The water canal was crystal clear. Um, so I didn't know what a great thing I had that I played in. And the overflow then went into we call it a stream. Some people might call it a creek or a brook, but we call it a stream. And we played in the stream a lot. I have many, many memories of playing in the stream. And another indicator that it was a spring that was used by people, there was a place where they would dump their trash. Maybe 20 yards away from that, kind of downhill. And, back when they were dumping trash in like 1890, they weren't dumping trash like we dump trash. People really had very little trash back then because the scraps they gave to their animals and things were in jars and things that you recycled or reused. Sorry. And that's where I would have my archaeological digs as a kid. I would go out there and dig, and we'd find marbles and jars. And I remember finding a giant ring, like for your finger, like a ring, and it had a name on it, and we looked it up, and it belonged to a giant who traveled with the circus, and that ring supposedly fit his finger. And it was huge, and maybe it did. Found that. I remember we found a Dick Tracy badge, which that was pretty new, probably. But you had to dig pretty far, and it was only things that did not biodegrade. And it didn't smell. It wasn't a lot of trash. It was just some. Some people would dump it there and probably get their water. Anyway, so that's the property I grew up on. We had maybe like 4 acres in the mountains, and this is Chestnut Springs, and like I said, this is going to have the spring going through here, and then the house will be below it. The Maryland flag has these colors in it. My maiden name is Rowe, R-W-E, and my married name is Reynolds, so it works for both. But this is actually for the Rowe part. And as I get to more features in here, I will share more history with you. But my parents had about, my mom told me it was 700 azaleas on the property. So people did take a lot of Sunday drives up the road. So you're kind of going up the mountain. And the first week in May is when the azaleas always bloomed. So they would always come and drive that week. And they would tell us that they would come that week so they could see the azaleas. So that's how far I am on Chestnut Springs. And that's your little history lesson for today. And the other thing I want to share with you is my whip go. My whip go isn't going so great. And part of it's because of some of the things that have happened in my life, which I'll get to in a minute. This is the first year I did whip go, and it fit pretty well because I had I think 24 whips, and there's 25 spaces on the whip go board. I could have used a free one, but I think I just put in my choice on there. So anyway, I got January's done, February's done, one of March's, one of April's. Now this one here, this is done, but it hadn't been called yet. I'm not sure. I guess I'll just go ahead and highlight that now. This one I haven't even started. That March one at home. I was dying to do this. This is a Brendan Gervais chart based on some of the buildings and architecture of Frederick County, where I'm from. So I want to do that, but I like this because it's making me pick up things I might not pick up otherwise. I could be a monogamous stitcher pretty easy, probably. I mean, some things might get to me and I need to switch them up a little bit, but I'm a product stitcher. If I stitch something, it's because I want it. I want to see it done. So I'm going to keep working on those whip go things, and I'm going to try and start at home this week. And the other one was I have Battle Hymn of the Republic and then Old Main Street, the patriotic pieces I have in a bag together. So sorry. Yeah, I'm going to have to get a cough drop. Yeah, I went to the doctor and I got an antibiotic. Kind of like the Flonase and all that, and much better, but this just won't go away. Anyway, so I hope to start those and get those done, at least started, maybe before they call the whip goes for next month, because that's coming up this week. So those are my plans. I got to get this little talk done tomorrow and get all my stuff packed up for that, and then just start working on some of these whips. Now, as far as the life update goes, that's about all I have left to share. I went to see my mother I guess it was the last Sunday in February. And I would normally go Sunday afternoons after church and visit with her and take her a little something special to eat, some dessert or something, candy. She has a big sweet tooth. And I get there and she's not responding to me and not waking up. And my sister and I my sister Kathy lives here. We have both kind of been feeling the same thing, that her time was growing short. Been feeling it for 2 or 3 weeks. I couldn't like put my finger on a symptom necessarily, but she just wasn't talkative as she used to be, as she had been being. Her appetite wasn't there. She didn't want to really get out of bed because she just went from bed to wheelchair really. If she's in her wheelchair, she couldn't really hold her head up, and she was 92 years old. And so I went to the nurse's station. I said, "What's going on with my mother?" And I was upset and crying because I just knew. And she said, "Yeah, well, she's had a little change." She said she's not wanting to eat a lot, just kind of rolling the food around in her mouth. And I was like, "When did she last eat?" "Well, we don't keep track of that." And I started getting kind of upset with them, but I didn't make a scene or anything. I mean, I couldn't change what had been done in the past at this point, but they said they didn't really keep track, but they knew that she hadn't been eating the same. And I'm like, well, she didn't eat anything today, period, because she hadn't been awake today. And so we made a call to the company. It's called Caris, and they're a hospice outfit here, one of them here. And they had already been seeing my mother in the nursing home for about a year or so. And so they had a nurse on call, and it was a Sunday night that she came over, and she examined her and everything and said, according to her vitals, she's okay, but she said other things she can see from her circulation is she's transitioning. So we called family, and one of my sisters from Maryland came down, and my brother, who lives north of Carolina, came down, and then me and my sister lives here. Have another sister in Maryland, wasn't able to come. It's just hard for her to travel because of her health, and have one here in South Carolina, but several hours away, and she couldn't come. She just wasn't able. So we sat by my mother's bedside for 7 days. She didn't eat or drink for 7 days, and like on day 4 or 5, the hospice nurse was like, "It's going to be today. We think it's going to be today." And they were like, "We're going to quit guessing because, why is she hanging on? Is there somebody she's waiting to see? Did you tell her it's okay to go?" And I said, "Well, the ones that can't come here, we got them on the phone. She's not opening her eyes anyway, so she could hear them. They were on speakerphone. we laid it right by her ear. She could hear it all, and she made a few little expressions, but never opened her eyes. And well, shouldn't say never. She did open her eyes a couple of times the first few days. For everybody who was there in person got to see her with her eyes open, but it was just kind of she was just staring and couldn't do anything else. And you know, we told her it was okay to go, and it, like I said, it took 7 days, and she passed away on March 2nd, and she had all of her arrangements prearranged, and I mean, I knew what they all were. I've been her regular power of attorney and healthcare power of attorney, and her executor, and all that stuff. I handle all her business, and she told me she changed her mind a couple years ago and said that she wanted to be cremated. And I was surprised because people that age just thought it wasn't right to be cremated. She didn't think she'd go to heaven if she was cremated. But she changed her mind about it, and I told her, I said, my pastor says he's going to be cremated. And what happens to people in a fire? I think it's okay, Mom. And if that's what you want to do. And she said she decided she did. And like I said, I was pretty surprised because she was adamantly against it before. I wasn't trying to push that on her because I don't know that I'm going to be cremated. But she made that decision, and she said, I don't want to sit on anybody's mantle for a long time, but you don't have to have a service right away. You can wait till it's convenient for everybody. So on March 25th, we had a service in Maryland for her where her ashes were buried, and that was soon to be the best day for everybody. And I was off work that week, and the next 2 weeks for spring break, and everyone could come that day. All the family, so all of her children, and I think I was going to do this. And all of her grandchildren were there. Sorry, this is supposed to be a happy video. And let me tell you, she lived a full life. She did a lot of things in her 92 years. And I spoke at her funeral, and I didn't even get this upset speaking there. Started to in the beginning, and I regained my composure and was able to keep talking. And 3 of my other sisters spoke too. And like I said, she was really remarkable. I could say a whole lot of things about her. Because she raised 6 kids pretty much on her own, and she was married twice, but neither marriage lasted. As long as they're supposed to, and although they may have been good fathers when they were around, they weren't around more than they were around. So she did a lot and did a lot. I'm sorry, I'm fiddling with a binder clip here because I'm talking about something uncomfortable, right? She just did a lot, and she did things to help others that people didn't know about. And I talked a little bit about that at her service, and she would help people out that others may kind of turn their nose up to. People that had done jail time and things like that. She maybe knew them or knew their families, and when they needed work, she helped them. She gave them work. She often had things to do around the house. And anyway, she was kind to a lot of people, and a lot of people have told me that over the years. And her quality of life was not good the last few years. She went into the nursing home in February 2021. So it was almost exactly 3 years, and she was very unhappy the whole time she was there. And she was confused a lot. She always knew us. Um, she always knew who we were, which was such a blessing. But it's going to be tough. Let me just say, it's just going to be tough. Um, but I'm going to try and live up to her example, and tomorrow have a game for these ladies, and so that they will laugh and have fun, and somebody will win a prize. And I told her I was doing this, and she didn't really quite understand what I was doing, but um, she always encouraged me in everything I did. I said she was my biggest fan, and so that's one thing I try and do for my kids is, whatever they're doing, I'm their biggest fan. So I hope that's what you all do with your children, your loved ones. Just be their biggest fan with whatever they choose to do in life. And uh, Mom would be happy that I read that article about Chestnut Springs. I think someone else posted that article, but she had it also in some of her papers that I've read. And uh, anyway, we're going to try and, well, I will tell you one thing. She left instructions for us all to go to this place called Mountain Gate out to eat. She said, I'm going to pay for it. I want everybody to the funeral to go. So we invited everyone to go. Mountain Gate is a place in Maryland that has a big buffet. And it's all like homemade food. And their dessert section, their pies and cakes. I mean, there's a lot of options there. If you leave there hungry, it's your fault. And it had some of like Maryland favorites that I don't get here very much. Um, One thing that we have like with every holiday when I was growing up, and I still do it here for Thanksgiving, is pork and sauerkraut. We still have turkey and ham, but we have pork and sauerkraut too. And at this place, they have sauerkraut on the bar. So it's kind of like Pennsylvania Dutch cooking there. So we had, I think, 40 some people that went. It was some of her cousins and their spouses, and I said all of her children, all of her grandchildren, which that meant so much to me that they were all able to be there. And I know it would have meant a lot to her too that we were all together. And we didn't really plan a game for that day. And we were sitting at two long like banquet tables. We reserved a room, and it's not a fancy place, but it's good food. Okay, they get a lot of buses that stop in there for people. So we had two long tables full, and my sister starts a telephone game. Where you tell something to that person goes all the way around. I don't know that it ever got all the way around to everybody, but we laughed so much, and that would have made my mom so happy that we played a game and we laughed and had fun, because that's what she liked to do. So, um, ignore these tears. um, they pop out when I least expect it sometimes. But anyway, I want to thank you all for coming to spend a little time with me. It's almost been 50 minutes. I thought this was going to be a really quick video. I've run my mouth a little too much probably, but I hope that you all enjoy your stitching. If you have a project, ditch it like I'm ditching that stocking, man. It's gone. It's out of here. I'm going to find another one that I like that won't take me 2 years to stitch because it has to be done by Christmas. Life's too short to do something you don't like to do. But I hope to be back here in a couple of weeks when I have some progress to show you. And I wish you all the best. Happy stitching. Where's my mouse?